The episode starts with a woman promoting a medicine called Lucus that can reduce people's stress. But suddenly, a toy that was greeting people moves away from the crowd and got transformed into a robot to explode. This catches the attention of the police. Inspector Akane gets informed and starts investigating with her colleague. They find out that there are 3 similar explosions that happened, and all of these are meant to grab the police's attention rather than harming anyone. They then watch a video posted by a masked man who is claiming that they are being deceived by the Sibyl System. Karanamori from the monitoring room shared a photo of a suspect, and when she searched in the database, she identified him as Akira Kitazawa, who is a building demolition supervisor. The team suspects Akira because he has the knowledge to create bombs. They head to the location where Akira was last seen with Division 2. Akane picks up her weapon, and the system grants her permission to use it. The team prepares to enter the building, but when some officers reach a room, it suddenly explodes. Thankfully, the officers escape unharmed. Meanwhile, a self-driving truck rushes towards other officers. The officers narrowly avoid it before the truck explodes. Then, a robotic machine jumps through a window but gets stuck. Just then, they hear a car approaching, and the officers point their guns, but Akane stops them when she sees Akira holding a woman hostage. Akira uses the hostage to escape, and Akane and the others chase after him. However, they got distracted by the robotic machine, but Akane destroys it with one shot by changing the mode of her weapon. They continue chasing Akira's car, but they got shocked when he releases the hostage and drives away. This confirms that Akira doesn't intend to hurt anyone, and he just wants to get the police's attention. Karanamori checks the database for information on the hostage woman, but finds no match. Looking into Akira's past, they realize his main goal is to rebel against society, and this is why he drew their attention and then freed the hostage. Akane orders Shisui to find the hostage and remove the bomb. However, while driving, Akira crashes into some police robots, and then Akane with her team surrounds him. She measures his crime coefficient at 302 and aims her gun at him, but Akira suddenly reveals a bomb that he is wearing. Then his car explodes, and he tries to escape on foot. The officers aim their guns, but Akane stops them, believing that it's not too late for him. She chases him, and on the stairs, Akira asks her to shoot him like she has too, but Akane refuses and says her gun will kill him if she does. Meanwhile, other officers start evacuating people from the building. Akira and Akane reach the rooftop, where Akira warns her that if she comes closer, he'll blast the bomb. Then he revealed his reasons for doing this and explains that they are getting controlled by the society created by Sibyl, and in this society the system selects only a few and rejects others for main work. However, Akane tried to confront him by saying that everyone's contribution is needed in society, and that includes him. Hearing this, Akira put down the trigger and surrendered. Akane then changed her gun's mode and paralyzed him with a single shot instead of killing him. Meanwhile, Shisui found the freed hostage woman, but the woman came close and injected her with poison. Then it revealed that the hostage is actually a man. The man took Shisui's gun and killed the other officer who was with her. He then kidnapped her. After that, the inspection team arrived at the location where Shisui went missing. One inspector reported that Yamatoya was killed with Shisui's weapon, and now both Shisui and the weapon are missing. Akane got worried when she heard that an inspector is missing and then noticed WC written on the wall. She wonders what it meant. She then went to a room where other officers were preparing a report to send to the chief. They were initially worried about the quality of the report, but felt relieved when Akane approved it. After that, Akane went to the interrogation room to question Akira. She told him that his crime coefficient suddenly increased after the 4th bomb explosion, which she found suspicious. She asked Akira how he managed to keep his psychopath clear all this time. Akira laughed and said that his hue is clear because someone taught him how to keep it that way. Then, Sakuya asked him why he used a hologram to create a fake hostage to escape and trap them. Akira angrily replied that he helped him and that he would fight alongside him against the world. Later, Aoyanagi informed Akane that she also interrogated Akira, but he kept talking about imaginary things, and after that, she thought that he might be mentally ill. Akane then asks if Shisui had been found, but Aoyanagi says not yet. Akane wondered if Shisui was responsible for Yamatoya's death, or if it was the hologram woman or someone else who kidnapped Shisui, and that WC was left on the wall as a clue. After that, Akane visited a gym, and she gets shocked to see Sakuya's impressive fighting skills against a robot. They talked while working out, and Sakuya thanked her for allowing him in the interrogation room. Meanwhile, Hinakawa is still busy searching for details about the hologram. Suddenly, Hinakawa ran into the gym and informs Akane and Sakuya that the hologram is so impressive because it didn't use many layers. They began investigating the face of the hologram, and when Karanomori checked the database, she found it matched an 8-year-old girl who died in a plane crash 15 years ago. The shocking part was that the hologram showed the woman as an adult. They realized the hologram was taking the faces of dead people by predicting what they would look like in the future. Suddenly, Akane received a message that Akira's crime coefficient had dropped so much that he is no longer a target for enforcement. Akane gets shocked, and then she goes to check it herself. She finds it to be true. Akira then claimed that someone had helped him clear his coefficient. Akane asked to check the visitor records, but Aoyanagi informed her that she already checked and says that Akira is lying because only a therapist from MWPSB has visited him. Then Akane and the others visited the therapist to ask him what kind of therapy he gave to Akira. The therapist replies that it was just a normal session, and then he left. Back at the office, everyone is concerned that Akira is getting transferred to a general ward despite his crimes, but they had no choice since his psychopath was clear. Akane then went home and started smoking, but then a robotic notification from her computer informed her of a scratch on the wall. Akane turned off the hologram and saw WC written on her wall, which shocked her. Before she could react, she received a call that Akira had escaped from custody. The police went on high alert and started searching for him. Akira was able to escape easily because of some signs guiding him, but after a while, he is caught by Akane, Sakuya, and Hinakawa. Akira warned them not to come closer or he would detonate a bomb. Akane tried to stop him, but Akira panicked and pressed the button, causing a bomb to explode. After the blast, his crime coefficient increased to 357, and Sakuya pointed his weapon at Akira and asks Akane to give the order to shoot. Akira gets scared, but before anything else could happen, Aoyanagi shoots and kills him. Akane then realized what WC meant. Meanwhile, someone punched a wall and called the public bureau fools for killing Akira. The scene shifts to a room where Shisui is tied up and unconscious. But when she wakes up, she got shocked to see her gun pointed at her own face. She becomes even more terrified when she notices her own eye in a beaker. Then, a man sitting nearby stands up and apologizes to her. Then he tells her that he needs an officer's eye, so he takes hers. Shisui's crime coefficient keeps rising, making her even more scared. The man comes closer, puts his thumb in her mouth, and starts talking about what she's going through. Shisui bites his thumb, but it doesn't affect him. She calms down a bit, and the man tells her that he's going to free her from Sibyl. Soon after that, her crime coefficient drops to 85. The man introduces himself as Kirito Kamui and says he wants to make the world clear. Meanwhile, some officers arrive at Akane's house to investigate if anyone came and wrote WC on her room wall. When they find nothing, they suggest Akane to get a checkup, but Akane denies this. While driving, Mika suggests Akane to arrange protection for her family according to the rules. But Akane replies that her parents can move to the MWPSB facility, but she's more concerned about her grandmother because she can't move. They then arrive at MWPSB headquarters, where Mika is shocked to see Juji. She quickly makes an excuse and runs away. Juji and Akane have a conversation, during which Juji warns Akane that talking to him might cloud her hue, but Akane assures him that it won't. Akane then explains that WC stands for what color, which Juji finds strange. He suggests that if this message is meant to lower someone's coefficient, it could be proof of devils existing. He explains that just because there's no proof that ghosts exist, it doesn't mean they don't. Meanwhile, Aoyanagi receives a sudden notification from Shisui, which shocks her. Akane and Mika then go to the chief's office to discuss Shisui's investigation, but the chief sends Mika outside as she wanted to talk to Akane alone. The chief asks Akane what she thinks about the case, but Akane asks if there's any person who isn't recognized by Sibyl. The chief replies that no such person exists. The chief then orders Akane to be careful with Hinakawa because he once had the highest crime coefficient on record, but it was somehow erased. Suddenly, an alarm sounds and warns everyone that stress levels have increased inside the Daiba Tower Hotel in the Minato ward. To check this, A-Team arrives at the hotel where Kokuta is giving a speech, but things take a turn when Mika arrests Kokuta because his hue is worsening and he needs therapy. Meanwhile, Aoyanagi visits a medicine faculty and notices an old man causing trouble at the reception. She checks his crime coefficient and finds it low, but suddenly she's attacked by a robotic dog. The reception area gets completely locked as the old man presses the emergency button. The old man then starts beating Aoyanagi and started claiming that he will be the savior of the world and save everyone. The old man grew tired after hitting Aoyanagi, so he took a few breaths from an oxygen mask. Then, he pulled a stick from his bag and smashed all the cameras in the room, which scared everyone. Then the old man says that he will free them just like Kamui has freed him. Meanwhile, outside the building, Aoyanagi's colleagues notice that the stress levels in the area have suddenly spiked. They got worried after seeing it. Inside, the old man is teaching everyone a harsh lesson. He made them strip off their clothes and line up. When one man tries to attack him, the old man quickly countered and killed him. Outside, the officers noticed the stress levels rising even more, so they requested backup. At the headquarters, Akane was questioning Kokuta about Kamui, but he did not reveal anything. Back at the facility, when Aoyanagi wakes up, she finds a man pointing a gun at her. She asked him what he was doing, and he replied that the old man had ordered him to do it. Meanwhile, the old man is beating anyone who disobeyed him. Aoyanagi tried to convince the man to trust her, and eventually he did and freed her handcuffs. But just then, a robotic dog detected her and rushed to attack, but Aoyanagi quickly shot it down. She grabbed the Dominator and pointed it at the old man. Then she tries to measure his crime coefficient. But even after all the violence, his crime coefficient remained low. The old man then grabbed an injured man and used him as a shield, and the Dominator calculated the injured man's crime coefficient as high, which stunned Aoyanagi. Outside, the officers detected someone using a Dominator nearby, and Mika wondered if it is Aoyanagi. Inside, Aoyanagi couldn't use her Dominator on the old man, so he took advantage and threw her onto a table. He then grabbed her transmitter and repeated that he would save everyone, just like Kamui saved him. Meanwhile, Division 3 arrived to take over the case. Mika asked their leader who gave them the authority, and the leader replied that it was Chief Kasi. Then, Division 3 cut off the electricity in the area, but the old man inside found this a foolish move. In the meantime, Aoyanagi grabbed a piece of broken glass and attacked the old man, causing the stress levels in the area to spike to a warning level. Aoyanagi then pinned the old man down with her special weapon, switched her Dominator to destroy mode, and opened the doors with a remote. But suddenly, an officer outside shot her through the wall because her crime coefficient had increased too high. The officer's leader asked if he had made a mistake, but the officer replied that he just shot the person with the highest crime coefficient. As the doors opened, people started coming out, but strangely, their crime coefficients have all increased, so the officers began shooting them one by one. Mika ordered them to stop, but they didn't listen. Meanwhile, Kamui arrived to rescue the old man through an escape route, but the old man refused and said that he wanted to stay. Eventually, the old man was killed too. When the officers entered the building, they were shocked to see the letters WC written on the wall. Kamui finally left the scene and arrived at his hidden hideout, where he met Shisui, whom he has kidnapped earlier. He checked Shisui's hue and then gently asked her to stay by his side by promising to do whatever it takes to bring her justice. Meanwhile, at the medical facility, Mika felt nauseous as she recalled the massacre she had just witnessed. Sakuya used his powers to check Akane's hue and found it incredibly clear, but he didn't realize that Mika has noticed him. Later, Akane went to talk with Juji, who told her that they were close to finding Kamui and they will soon discover his hidden base. He praised Akane and called her amazing. After that, Unit 1 and Unit 3 went to inspect a military base, with Akane and Sakuya leading the way. Although the base has already been scanned by drones, they were there to investigate it in person. As they explored the base, Akane and Sakuya inspected the military's machinery and weapons. While walking around, Akane noticed many somatic scanners, which made her confident that no one can pass from these unnoticed. However, as they continued their inspection, they found a wall that seemed out of place. Sakuya used his detective instincts and confirmed that it is actually a hologram and not a real wall. They passed through the hologram and entered a room which is filled with equipment and face masks. Nearby, a person is playing a game on his phone, unaware that he was actually controlling real weapons. As he played, he started firing randomly, thinking it was part of the game, and ended up killing 3 people as he believed that they were his targets. Meanwhile, Akane and Sakuya entered in another room where they saw WC written on the wall. But suddenly, they heard an explosive noise. Then more people across the city started playing the same game, and the other weapons became activated, which created chaos at the military base. Akane and Sakuya watched this in shock as the situation went out of control. At the same time, Mika entered a secret room, and she gets shocked to discover some suspicious files about Akane. Meanwhile, robotic weapons are causing destruction and chasing after all the officers and enforcers. To stop them, Sakuya activates destroyer mode. Then Akane asks Karanomori about the chaos, and Karanomori explains that the drone system has been hacked and now random people are controlling them. This is shocking news to both of them. Karanomori further explains that the hacker has turned the drone's camera views into an imaginary game, where people are unknowingly shooting at real targets. Akane and Sakuya look for a safer place to manage the drones. Meanwhile, Shisui kills an officer after checking his crime coefficient. The officer dies in shock, realizing that it was Inspector Shisui who killed him. At that moment, Kamui arrives and asks Shisui how she feels. Shisui replies that her hue is very clear, and she can sense it without even scanning. Kamui congratulates her on being free, now and then apologizes for the pain that he gave her by removing her eye. Shisui tells him not to worry about it, as she never liked that eye anyway. She then authenticates another weapon and gives it to Kamui, who has replaced one of his eyes with Shisui's, which allows him to use the Dominator. Meanwhile, Akane remembers past events and realizes that Kamui's goal is to collect Dominators by killing enforcers. Mika discovers files showing that someone has been recording all the changes in Inspector Akane, which she finds creepy. She is startled when a notification rings. Also, in the monitoring room, everyone is shocked to see that Shisui has activated 2 Dominators. Back at the military base, Kamui is killing enforcers one by one. Akane realizes that Kamui can't kill her since she's an inspector, so she orders the others to leave while she goes ahead alone. In the control room, they finally regain access to the drone system and decide to show the real camera footage to the players, as they are hoping that players will stop playing the game. However, Akane's image got altered in the game, which made her a prime target for the players. As a result, they start chasing her. After running for a while, Akane gets surrounded by drones, but Mr. Sugo arrives just in time to save her. Other officers arrive soon after, and 2 gamers are logged out once the drones are defeated. Suddenly, they receive a distress call from an enforcer asking for help. Akane responds that they are on their way, but before they can get there, Kamui reaches the enforcer and kills him with a Dominator after measuring his crime coefficient. Akane hears the scream and got shocked. She quickly makes a plan with the others to gather all the drones in one place and destroy them. Meanwhile, Sakuya secretly checks Akane's hue and is amazed at how clear it remains, even in this chaotic situation. They execute their plan and gathering all the drones in one place, and then Sugo shoots them from above. Afterward, Akane gives Genoza a weapon as she believed that the Dominator won't work on Kamui. However, all the robotic police start acting strangely as they have been hacked and begin attacking others, including the officers. To stop this, Karanomori broadcasts the real camera footage to all the players. Players shocked by what they see, they stop playing, and the robotic police disconnect and stop moving. Finally, Akane confronts Kamui and Shisui, who are on a boat. She asks Kamui who he is and what his goal is, but he doesn't give a clear answer. Knowing that Akane can't shoot him with the Dominator, Kamui leaves. Sakuya arrives and tries to shoot Kamui with a normal weapon, but Akane stops him. After that, ambulances and robotic police work to clear the chaos and send the injured to the hospital. Meanwhile, some robots are still hijacked, and a young boy is playing with one and enjoying hurting people. But soon, Hinakawa and others catch him, and Hinakawa shoots him with the Dominator. Meanwhile, till now, Kokuta did not confess to anything, so the police release him because they didn't have enough evidence against him. Meanwhile, Akane feels guilty for not shooting the boy, but Sakuya reassures her that she's the only one who can catch Kamui, so she shouldn't stress. She got lost in thought and realizes that Kamui first tested if unauthorized people could use the Dominator, then if it could judge an inspector, and now he has attacked the MWPSB and obtained many Dominators. She wonders whom Kamui is planning to target with them. In her dream, a man tells her that the Dominator can't recognize Kamui and that he's different from Makishima. He assures her that there's a way to catch Kamui, but then Sakuya's voice snaps her out of her thoughts, and Akane wonders what color Kamui's hue might be. Later, Akane and other officers arrive at a crime scene. She says she'll search for Kamui, but the others suggest to her to get rest. She replies that she can't rest in her apartment after the WC incident. Genoza got frustrated and asks if she still hasn't moved on from that, and Sakuya questions if she's trying to bait herself. Akane replies that she just doesn't have time to move. Suddenly, Akane gets informed that the nursing home where her grandmother stays was attacked by malfunctioning drones. Scared, Akane rushes to the nursing home, but she feels relieved when she finds her grandmother safe. Afterward, Akane goes to the head office and asks the chief why she hasn't taken any action against Shisui or disabled her Dominator. The chief explains that they tracked Shisui and found her hue clear, so they can't disable her Dominator. Akane gets angry and says they can't bring justice with these rules. Then Chief asks her about the report, where she mentioned the Dominator didn't recognize Kamui. Akane confirms this, and Chief tells her that it's impossible. After some arguments, Akane asks Chief if she can investigate Kamui herself, and once she finds proof, they can take action. The Chief gives her permission, and Akane leaves. Meanwhile, Sakuya enters a room and discovers that Mika has been there. He realizes that data from his computer was copied, and Mika placed a camera to spy on him. He wonders how much Mika dislikes him. While checking the data, Mika gets shocked after discovering that all the officers who worked with Sakuya eventually became criminals and were executed by the Eliminators. And this information isn't their database. Later, Mika goes to the office, where an officer tells her that Kokuta is missing after being released and thought he might be dead. Suddenly, Hinakawa is shocked to see the drugs they found as evidence, which are illegal and made of strange combinations that he hasn't seen before. He informs Akane about the pharma hologram that Kamui was wearing, and confirms it from the medicine faculty incident also. An officer asks why he didn't report it sooner, and he replies that he told Mika, but Mika gets angry and asked him why he didn't report it verbally. Akane then asks Hinakawa to send the data to the analysis lab. Karanomori analyzes the face and finds it matches a kid who died in a plane crash years ago. Sakuya realizes this is similar to the woman's hologram Kamui used first. Akane asks Karanomori to check the details of the plane crash. Karanomori reports that about 201 people died in the crash, including 185 children. When they check the sole survivor's name, they are shocked to see Kirito Kamui's name. However, Kamui's records are inaccessible in their database, so Akane asks Karanomori to investigate the people involved in his surgery. They find that Masuzaki was involved in Kamui's surgery. Akane quickly decides to go after Masuzaki and asks Mika to come with her. Before leaving, she orders Hinakawa to create holograms of all 185 children who died in the plane crash. Hinakawa reluctantly agrees. Meanwhile, Masuzaki is talking with Kamui about his plan, and then he wishes Kamui all the best. But suddenly, Akane and other officers arrive and arrest him. Karanomori informs Akane that Hinakawa has sent her the holograms of the children, with their aged face updated. Akane goes to the analysis lab, and when they check the holograms, they are shocked to recognize many familiar faces. Akane realizes that Kamui has been among them all along without them knowing. Meanwhile, Mika visits the Ministry of Patent Office's archive room, where she checks the patents owned by the Togane Foundation. In the database, she finds a file which have details about Kirito Kamui's surgery of combining parts of 184 bodies through a multi-organ transplant to create one body. In the interrogation room, Masuzaki tells Juji the same thing, that Kamui's body is made by joining pieces of 184 bodies. He explains that when the surgery was completed, Kamui was a normal human, and the Sibyl scanners could recognize him. However, as Kamui grew older, he started becoming invisible to the scanners. Masuzaki recalls when Kamui told him that he committed crimes on purpose to get attention, but no one noticed him. Kamui felt that his existence was denied by Sibyl. Back to present, Masuzaki then reveals that 5 years ago he was addicted to drugs because of stress, but Kamui helped him recover by using the drug data that others weren't allowed to see. Kamui even created drugs that can clear people's hue. Masuzaki adds that Kamui's goal is to change everything, which shocked everyone, including Akane. Meanwhile, Mika finds the surgery details disturbing and notices that the file was last opened 2 months ago by someone named Shunji. Initially, she did not recognize the name, so she checks the data and finds that Shunji was one of the hollows. Mika digs deeper and discovers a link to the Togane Foundation, which is the parent company of all the drug companies. She starts to suspect that Kamui might be seeking revenge against the Togane Foundation, as their patented technologies were used in the surgeries performed before the plane crash, including extracting brains while the patients were still alive. Mika is shocked to learn that the patent applicant was Misako Togane, who is Sakuya Togane's mother, and she died 5 years ago. She then checks who Sakuya Togane's father is, but the information is sealed. She also finds a record titled Proof of the Congenitalness of AA Idiosyncrasy, but it's sealed too. Mika got frustrated, and then she feels worried that her hue might get clouded by all this information. She decides to report everything to the chief and starts making a report. In the 5H3 report, Mika states that everything started 15 years ago with a plane crash where 184 children died, but the Togane Foundation took advantage of the tragedy. She mentions that Kirito Kamui was the sole survivor, and Misako Togane, who ran the Togane Foundation at the time, experimented on Kamui and the other children's bodies to test their patented technologies. Mika suggests that keeping an eye on the Togane Foundation can help them catch Kamui, as he might be seeking revenge. She also reports that Sakuya Togane was created through an experiment by Misako Togane to artificially create AA, which might explain Sakuya's high crime coefficient. Mika speculates that Sakuya and Kamui might be connected through AA, and she further mentions that both are equally dangerous. She also notes that Sakuya's past involves all 5 inspectors he worked with turning into criminals due to their rising crime coefficient. Mika warns that Akane's crime coefficient might increase because of Sakuya, and then she labels the situation as serious before sending the report to the chief. After sending the report, Mika is called by the chief. The chief first praises Mika for her report and then reveals that AA means open door data. Mika wonders what that means. The chief explains that it's a trap to lure in and fully understand those who are unfit for society and who might try to expose top secrets. The chief reveals that AA stands for a priori acquit, which is Sibyl's biggest secret. The chief then wonders how to deal with Mika, who has gathered all this information. Mika is shocked and starts backing away in fear, but Sakuya stops her by pointing a dominator at her. Sakuya calls the chief his mother and asks if she can handle Mika. Mika is stunned to realize that the chief is actually Misako Togane. The chief agrees, and Sakuya assures his mother that he will bring down both Akane and Kamui, so she doesn't need to worry. Despite Mika's desperate pleas for mercy, Sakuya drags her to a table and forces her face onto it. The chief then tells Mika that she will reveal the secrets of the world to her. After hearing the truth, Mika got excited and started cheering. She says it is wonderful that a system like this exists to protect society. The chief praised her and calls her an ideal citizen because Mika easily understood what was best for society. Sakuya agreed and mentioned that Mika's hue is very clear. However, the chief teased Sakuya about his own hue and remembered his childhood, when he was very cruel and became the only successful case of someone being artificially made criminally asymptomatic. In the present, Sakuya told the chief they didn't need to worry about Mika if she kept the chief pure, but he also saw another use for her. The chief asked what he meant, and Sakuya suggested to use Mika to color Akane black. Mika gets shocked to hear this. Meanwhile, Akane is still thinking about why Kamui wanted to know the color of Sibyl. The chief and Sakuya then visited Masazaki. At first, Masazaki didn't recognize them, but he was soon shocked to realize that the chief is actually Misako Togane, who was supposed to be dead. Suddenly, Akane received information that someone had killed Masazaki with a dominator inside the prison. Sakuya tried to shift the blame onto Kamui, which shocked Mika. However, the analyst officers were surprised when they found no footage of Masazaki's murder, and they realized that someone had accessed the MWPSB system. Then Sakuya confessed to Mika that he killed Masazaki because Masazaki knew too much about his mother. Mika is horrified, but she was even more shocked when Sakuya asks her about the location of Akane's grandmother. Meanwhile, the officers found out about a man named Koichi, who had been holding a lot of meetings recently. They discovered that Koichi attended the same school whose students died in the plane crash, but he left just 1 week before the incident. After discussing it, they suspected that Kamui and Koichi might be connected, so Akane decided to take Koichi into custody. Meanwhile, Koichi is having dinner with Kamui and some other people. When the main dish was served, everyone got horrified to find the faces of dead people on their plates. Kamui revealed that these people had taken advantage of others during a time of hell to gain their current positions. So then he used a dominator to kill them. The stress level in the area increased and the police were alerted. Akane, Mika, Sakuya, and other officers headed to the location, but by the time they arrived, Kamui and the others had left, leaving only Koichi behind. When they reached the scene, they found Koichi standing in front of a burning building. They surrounded him and asked him to surrender. Akane approached him and asks him to come with them, but Koichi told her to look at a box first. When Akane saw what is inside, she got shocked and grabbed Koichi by the neck and started demanding to know what he had done. Mika rushed to check the box and found a severed ear which belongs to Akane's grandmother. Mika is shocked, while Sakuya smiled silently. Meanwhile, Kamui and others had taken control of a train, but it was captured by surveillance cameras. Akane sit alone and realized that Kamui is trying to resolve everything at once. Suddenly, the train officials get shocked when train number A1971 went out of control and started accelerating rapidly. The control room began evacuating all trains to a safe area, but at the end they couldn't change the tracks of A1971. And soon they realized that the runaway train is also heading toward the evacuation area. This was all part of Kamui's plan. When the train arrived at the evacuation area, Kamui said, "Let's get started," and sealed off all escape routes by blowing up the wastewater drainage system and trapped around 500 people. He then began eliminating people based on their crime coefficients. He ordered his allies to target anyone with a score likely to go above 300. Everyone in the analyst's office is shocked to see Kamui randomly shooting people. Meanwhile, Mika shared her suspicion that Kamui is planning revenge against the Togane Foundation, and it was the foundation that had performed Kamui's surgery. Akane went to the chief's office and informed her that Kamui's real target was not the Togane Foundation. However, the chief revealed that she had already ordered Division 3 to blow up the area where Kamui is, which would also kill the 500 hostages. Akane strongly disagreed, but the chief insisted and ordered Akane to detonate the bomb herself. Then Akane realized that the chief is determined to kill Kamui at any cost. The chief also revealed to Akane that her grandmother had been brutally murdered, and after seeing the footage, Akane became very emotional. As she was deep in thought, a man asked Akane if she is going to kill Kamui. Akane replied that while the Sibyl System couldn't judge Kamui, she has to defeat him. The man gently slapped her and tells her not to let them win. This brought Akane back to reality. Akane then went to the interrogation room and asked Koichi for a favor. After that, she called Kamui and introduced herself as part of CID Division 1. Kamui excitedly asked about Koichi, and Akane told him that Koichi had become cooperative. She also informed Kamui that the Sibyl System is planning to bury him along with the other passengers. But Kamui replies he would manage to escape. Akane then warned him that if he tried, all the inspectors and enforcers would stand in his way. She offered Kamui a deal that if he released the passengers, she would grant him a wish. She sent him a map and asked him to come to a specific location. Akane then discussed Kamui's thinking and her plan with the chief, which Sakuya overheard. He quietly walked away from the detonator's location. Then Chief ordered the leader of Division 3 to blow up the place, but when an officer tried to detonate the bomb, it didn't work. In the meantime, Shisui arrived and killed the officers before the water level dropped. At a different location, Akane met Sakuya, who asked to go with her because he felt responsible for Kamui's crime, as his mother had created him. Akane asked him to stop acting since she knew that his mother is acting as Chief Kase. Sakuya tried to deny it, but Akane revealed that she had checked his real background and knew that he had turned all his fellow officers into criminals. She then asked him if he wanted to turn her crime coefficient black, but before he could respond, Kamui arrived and said Sakuya couldn't change her color. Then all three faced each other. Sakuya pulled out a knife to finish Kamui, but Kamui pointed a dominator at Sakuya and found his crime coefficient is 769. Kamui fired a shot, and Sakuya rushed to attack him. Just before Kamui can shoot Sakuya, Akane steps in. She tells Kamui that even though she has lost many people close to her, she is still determined to uphold the law. She then takes Kamui to the Sibyl System, where they meet Chief Kase. Kamui asks the Sibyl System to judge them, and when he checks the chief's crime coefficient and finds it high, he shoots and eliminates her. Akane then leads Kamui to Sibyl's true form. There, Sibyl acknowledges Kamui's existence and decides to lower its own crime coefficient by destroying some of its own brains. Meanwhile, Shisui is in a desperate situation and tries to set off bombs, but Sugo stops her just in time. Meanwhile, Akane is trying to arrest Kamui, but then Sakuya comes and tries to raise her crime coefficient by reminding her of her grandmother's death, by revealing that he was the one who killed her. She became emotional, but Kamui helps her calm down. But then both Sakuya and Kamui end up shooting each other with their dominators. Kamui dies, and Sakuya is severely injured. Later, Mika finds Sakuya, but she can't bring herself to execute him. She decides to keep her betrayal a secret. However, Sakuya eventually dies from his injuries. Afterward, as Akane is about to leave, Division 3 officers stop her and says that her rights have been taken away, and they try to arrest her. But just then, Hinakawa and Genoza arrive, and Hinakawa informs them that Akane's rights have been restored. Akane then asks Genoza to check her hue, and he finds it clear. Subscribe to my channel for more amazing recaps like this. If you have any suggestions for the next recap, comment down below.